sitting at a spot called Raven's Rock, I think it's called, and I'm about 45 minutes or so into a 2-day hike. Well, it's about 24 hours. It's 4 o'clock now. The plan for today:
to find a location at the base of Kippure mountain, the site of an ancient halfway house where a battle took place 2,000 years ago and a High King of Ireland was decapitated. First, I need to make my way from Curtlestown Wood across the ridge of these two peaks, following the border of Dublin and Wicklow to the base of Kippure mountain. I used Henry Morris's paper on finding the location of the house in battle, where he shows this map and described it as in the valley of Glen na Small near the mouth of Maureen's Brook on the hill where you can see the Irish Sea. The story from the Ulster cycle of the Irish sagas is called Tahal Brua Dá Dearga, meaning the destruction of the Red God's hostel. The story reads of the High King Conaire Mór on his path of self-assured destruction through the breaking of his geisha, an Irish word for forbidden actions. His recklessness finds him resting for the night in the hostel on the hill that I am looking for, where he is attacked and killed.
But I should get moving anyway. Oh. I've wanted to do this hike for a while. There's something about this place that spooks me, and I don't know what it is. I've been up in Kippure before. I've been up here before. I've even gone down into the valley of Glen na Small and had a look at the stuff that's written about the place, you know. And something spooked me then, and it spooks me now. Don't know if it's just I'm aware of the stories. I'm going to look for a battle site where, if the story is to be believed, thousands of people died. I think the invading army from Alba, or Britain at the time, was 150 ships, it said, which is a lot of ships. But this stuff is written in the mythological cycles. Most of the stuff in them is a stretched truth at best, and if you can't rely on numbers given in state records in the 16 and 1700s, how are you supposed to believe stuff that was passed down orally for at least 600 or 700 years before it was written down? But anyway, regardless of the number, many people died where I plan on sleeping tonight. It's a bit spooky.
I approached the ill-named Prince William's seat, which local folklore says was named after the English King George VI's brother on a visit to Ireland. However, there doesn't seem to be any substantial evidence of this, and I believe the next peak on the ridge holds some answers on that name.
All of this bogland, right, like saddles, like the point between two hills, are notoriously a horrible experience. Well, I shouldn't say that. A challenging experience. But it's been really warm out in Ireland for the last couple of weeks. It hasn't rained. Maybe 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And all of the bog is dry. It's all bone dry. Some of that there would have been, I would have been twice the amount of time trying to get through that saddle there if it had rained a week ago. Crispy, walking through it right now. It's actually like dusty. It's so dry at the top. It's a very enjoyable experience. I was hiking with a guy a few months ago, and he leads hikes in Tipperary up at the Galties, and he said he had one woman was walking away, didn't look where she was stepping, and she went up to her neck, went all the way in. Just completely normal ground, and there was just a bit of bog in front of her. Straight in. It's not uncommon on a hike to have to dodge drops into wetlands, and even all the sphagnum moss, which you see everywhere in the ground in Ireland and the hills, holds huge amounts of water. It's great stuff. It's antibacterial. They used it during the World War One and Two, I think, as padding for wounds. Also, it's a medieval tampon. That's what they used to use. But it's all dry, it's all crispy, which is why I have to be careful tonight if I do light a little fire, because this is such a peat-rich environment. Peat is flammable, so I have to be really careful, especially when it's really dry. Anyway, I'm at Knocknagun, and it's a big rock formation, but I thought it was huge. When you look at it, when you're way further back, it's like, whoa, it looks like it looks like a big castle or something. Like, it's huge. It's big enough, like.
Unfortunately, no folklore survives for the name the Hill of the Dogs, but this tor that marks the peak of Knocknagun was a resting place throughout the 16th and 17th centuries for local clan leaders who would hunt in the area. The clan at the time was the Fitzwilliam clan. I think it's reasonable to assume there had been either a mix-up with the names of the peaks, or this ridge was named after the Fitzwilliams, and this tor their seat.
This is Knocknagun. This is where the Fitzwilliam clan used to come and have a little rest while they were on their hunts all around the hills, which I'm sure are probably more plentiful of forest and deer and all of that during the 1600s. And you might be able to see William's seat behind me, but as far as I'm concerned, this is William's seat, right? I'm now walking the borderline of Wicklow and Dublin. So there's Dublin, there's Wicklow. I believe there is a big old rock that will mark a corner point where the border turns. Wow, it's so vast and open. But this ridge walk here goes for quite some time. I can't remember how many kilometers, but I can't see the end of the ridge. So let's see how I got on. I'm after milling it through that ridge there in a meditative way. The mist has sort of cleared off a little bit. You can see some of the peaks now, which is quite nice. That's Kippure with the big mast on it up there. That's my breakfast spot tomorrow if all goes well. And these stakes you can see lining all the way, that's the county boundary of Dublin and Wicklow. Bumped into a group of people that were doing the ridge walk. They were just locals doing there's a loop here. It's funny, you think you're in the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden you see a family walking towards you and you're like, oh, alright. The route's been great. There's lots of points where I was thinking the paths might get a little vague there, and that's okay. Like, I know roughly where I'm going. I have the maps, I have the apps, I have the compasses. I mean, look at this trail. I was worried there wasn't going to be a trail here. It's like walking in bleeding St. Anne's Park, man.
This big old stone is the marker where the counties Dublin and Wicklow turn off the ridge. It's been noted as a boundary line since at least the mid 1800s, but probably goes back a lot further than that. because it has an old feature within it. This is a chluch bolán, meaning a bowl stone in Irish. They are common across Celtic regions of Western Europe, in Ireland, Scotland, parts of France and Cornwall. The ancient human-made divots collect rainwater and have been associated with ritual and curses from pre-Christian times. It's weird to find one in the middle of nowhere like this one though, because they're usually around churches and gravesites. The 2,000-year-old road, named on Slí Chualann, that ran to Othclia, is thought to have run very close to this monument, and there's still a road just down the hill today. I could be doing it an injustice here, but I think it could have simply been a place for thirsty travellers to grab a sip of relatively clean water that wasn't orangey brown with peat, as we're in the Featherbed bog area.
I haven't consulted any academics on my theory, but it just kind of makes sense that people would have carved those holes out of rocks so that they could collect water. It'd be a handy little sup of drink when you're hiking through the hills. I don't know what they called it hiking back then. I sometimes think about the idea of hiking in a modern context versus an ancient context, but I'd say they probably look at what I'm doing now and think, what the fuck is he doing that for? Maybe it's a sort of pilgrimage it would be seen as, to try and connect with some sort of existence other than your own. I'm just about to pop out onto the tar road here, so I'm just gonna bait down this road and get onto the track, which I can see ahead of me. I'm not that far off. Big valley to my right here, that's the valley of Glen na Small, and that is the valley where the Fianna, the warriors of Fionn McCool and Fionn himself, used to go hunting and just having the crack around this area. But this was his favourite spot in the country for it, apparently. This whole area is just littered with monuments and earthworks that are thousands of years old. It's very cool to see topography and geography and mythology all link up, and then to go and see it in person, or at least attempt to. There's a portal tomb down beside the Dodder River down there, which I haven't gotten to yet. I looked at it on Google Maps and Google Earth to try and get like a good image of that there was something there, you know. And I went down, I had the market spot on an OS map and everything, and I went down to it and I could see something, and I was like, there's something there, man, that has to be it. And I went all the way down, and it was a burnt out car. How a burnt out car got that far down that valley, I do not know. Well, I think I do know, but that must have been some night. I can see the hill the proposed hostel or halfway house used to be on. I think I found a spot. I'm mid arduous task of purifying some water with this MSR pump that I got. That's clean water after half an hour pumping. I think this is it. Well, I know this isn't exactly it, but it's pretty close. I followed what I think was Maureen's Brook up here, off the trail, up the hill, and just over the top of that because on a clear day it said that you're able to see the sea, the Irish Sea, from the hostel, which obviously you can't see from here because this is just a little hill in the way. And the reason I went up the top there, the reason I didn't put the camp there was because there's a trail just over the little hill here. It was still quite bright out, so I didn't want to put my tent up in full visibility of the trail in case anybody went past and had an issue with me camping here. So I think there was a little bit of a compromise that had to be made. It kind of looks like everywhere else that I've been today, just lots of hills and grass and growth, but just on that little hill there was supposed to have been a battle between thousands of people and a High King of Ireland killed, beheaded. I made a little drop of pasta. Nothing particularly fancy, but I needed needed a rake of carbs after today. Here's my little Vango 2-person tent. Definitely not a 2-person tent. Nice and cozy and ready for me. Oh, very soon. Gonna get into my tent now. It's getting kind of chilly, and hit the mountain in the morning. Yeah, it's not that bad. Be alright. Good luck. Modern Wahakarja. Well, I made it through the night. I got up for a sunrise hike, and about 5 o'clock my alarm went off. Popped my head out the door of the tent. Gorgeous. I could just see that there was the light in the sky, and it was totally clear. I was like, oh, perfect, amazing. It's like I had a little snooze for another 10-15 minutes, and then opened the door again. And yeah, I have about 20 meters of visibility now, just completely in the clouds. That's the mountains for you. It can change in an instant. But it's not raining, that's the main thing. And you see all weird shapes and things when you're in the clouds like this. Anyway, I'm just gonna have a protein bar or something, and I'm gonna start heading straight up the mountain. Hopefully things will clear off a little bit in the next hour or so, and I'll make myself a nice little coffee and all that when I get up to the top. I'm trudging up the mountain. I feel like trudging is the only word to describe going up a mountain at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm about maybe 100 meters up from where I camped, and it's clearing. Looks like it's just some low lying cloud this early in the morning. Oh yeah, it's all opening up over there. And it looks gorgeous. We're just at the top. 1 hour from the brook where I filled up my water, which is just beside the campsite, to the top of Kippure. I'm gonna have some breakfast at the top, and I'm dying for it. The last 20 minutes there was a bit of a slog, so I'm going to tan a tin of mackerel, get my electrolyte drink on the go, and I'll be good to go for the rest of the day. Yes, we did it. I love the electric hum of giant television masts when I'm on the top of a mountain. I know this isn't the tallest point, but nice touch. Goodbye, Kippure Mountain. Jesus. It's fierce windy up here. I'm right out in the open. Well, I'm at the tallest point in Dublin, so there's nothing blocking me from the wind up here. I just had a quick pit stop up there at the top. Just a little sit down after flying up that mountain. So this is another bonus of having a telefiche mast up the top of a mountain, is that there's a road access to it from one side that brings me down to a little bridge up here, and then I go off trail completely. There's no trail from there over to, I think it's Eagle's Rock it's called, or Eagle's Crag or something. And then once I get to there, that's the only bit that I'm a bit iffy on, because I don't really know what the path looks like or the trail looks like from there. All Trails tells me that there is a path or a trail there, but All Trails has spoofed to me before. On the slope down that way, that's the northwest side, and it is right on that little perch there that I was camped below last night, and that is where the hostel is supposed to have been. And there's the Irish Sea. It looks like there's a big trail there that'll bring me all the way around to Glencree, and this looks steepish. Don't know if I'll be filming when we getting down here, but yeah, there's definitely a trail that goes down the middle here, and it looks well worn, so that's where I'm going. That climb down was not for the faint of heart. I wouldn't say I'm afraid of heights, but there's something about having 17 kilos on your back which can affect your balance a little bit. But I had one minor slip, but thanks to some heather that I grabbed onto, I was grand. That gaff over there, man, who's living there? Is it a private beach? There's a boat on it. Stop the lights. Huh? I'm a big fan of the three spirals. And there's a cross right there. 1500 years of trying to convert the Irish to Catholicism and Protestantism. And we're still pagan at heart, baby.
I began walking into Glen Cree, which was the chillest little village I think I've ever walked through. But oddly enough, I came across a German military cemetery in the middle of it. I had a quick look around and headed from one graveyard to another. Coillte is the Irish forestry body who own huge amounts of land in these areas to create monoculture, non-native forests for timber. They often leave behind the decaying remnants of processed forests on dead acidic ground after they're done. I'll save you the 10-minute rant I did on video and just cut you in at the end of it.
Coillte just come in and they just shred the land up. They plant all of these little forest plantations, and 20 years they'll come back here and they'll just cut them all down and leave the place to shite. But I'm up on top of the hill now, back on a path. On the forestry path, so I guess I'm smack talking them for monoculture spruce plantations, but I'm thankful they put the forestry paths in. Home stretch now, let's. This has been more or less what I've been looking at for the last maybe hour or so. Lots of ferns, very Jurassic Park vibes. I'm on the forest road now that leads back to the car. I'll give my little conclusion, as I like to do. What did I think of the location that I was set out to look for? I don't know what I expected to find when I got there. I knew there wouldn't be anything there. I knew it was just a series of hills and a stream. I'm not too sure what I expected, other than to maybe feel some sort of connection with poor old Conaire Mór. But I didn't, to be honest. It's a beautiful place. I loved seeing the deer and the hare, and it was not as eerie as I expected it to be camping on an ancient battleground where a high king famously had his head chopped off. It kind of just felt like a really nice hill with really nice views and a lovely valley. I guess that's all there is to be expected. I think mainly I like reading these stories and trying to imagine them vividly. The mythologies you have to take with a grain of salt and try and dissect what's actually real and what's massive exaggerations. And I think when I go to the places in the stories in real life, one, it's a great excuse for me to put together a big loop where I can go and do a nice big hike. And secondly, it puts some realism into those mythologies. And even if I don't feel some sense of ancient belonging or eeriness of what happened there, it probably did happen there. And the thing about Ireland is it's such a small island. Everyone's been everywhere. Something has happened nearly everywhere. This island has been inhabited for thousands and thousands of years. Something has happened everywhere. You walk through Dublin town, I'd say every 5 foot someone's been murdered there at some stage in the last 1,000 years. So you don't feel that spooky when you're walking into Jervis Centre, you know. It was a great couple of days. I'm delighted I finally did it. It's a fine example that I'll have to play back to myself of how I can have a hike in my head that spooks me for some reason. I can't put my finger on it, and you go and you do it, and it's great, and you have a great time. as soon as you're out doing the thing, your mind eases. You want to go on a hike? Just go on the hike, man. It's all good. The sense of relief every time when I see the car is still here and in good nick. To be fair, I don't think anyone's robbing that car.